I'm going to answer the question that I often get asked by pastors and church members and church leaders. What's the signs of a healthy church? How do we actually know if we're healthy or not healthy as a church? Give us some guidance here, John. And I draw on my 4 decades of ministry to answer this question quite often. And also today, I'm going to give you a resource, not only answer this question, I'm going to give you a resource to help you grow a healthy church. It's the passion of my life at this stage of my ministry. I've been in ministry for over 4 decades, and my passion is to help pastors and church leaders grow a healthy church. So I've got a resource for you that I think will really help you. If you really like the channel, please subscribe. Please like and enjoy and make a comment, and make sure you jump into the description below for that resource, a 3-minute quiz on growing a healthy church, positioning yourself for growth in your church. As we jump into these 6 signs of a healthy church and consider how can we have these key indicators, what sort of things will speak to us that will let us know that we're on the right track? Well, a number of these are metrics. They're not all 6 are metrics, but a number of these are metrics because numbers tell us a story, and it's important to get the right numbers. Churches sometimes just measure attendance, or measure the cash, or measure the income and the expenditure. But I think the number one metric, and this is the first key sign, key indicator of a healthy church, is water baptism. How many people are getting baptized in relationship to your attendance? So, for instance, Tony Morgan of the Unstuck Group in the States, I think one of the best, most informative church growth consultants around the globe today, says that if you have 100 people on average on Sunday morning in your church, then to be a healthy church, you need to be baptizing round about 7 or 8, 6, 7, 8 people, around about 7 or 8%. Up to 9% even. If you're hitting those sort of percentages, that ratio number, if you've got 1,000 people on a Sunday morning, then your ratio, 7, 8, 9%, around 70, 80 people getting baptized. It's an indicator that evangelism is happening and discipleship is also happening. Because people don't stand in a big bucket of water, a bath of water, or in an ocean or a river and get dunked down into that water and brought up again, and everyone claps and people pray and they invite their family and friends to watch. People don't do that unless their life has changed. Discipleship has happened, evangelism has happened. It's the best indicator of church health, I think, in terms of making disciples. Second metric I really like to look at is the small group involvement. How many, and this is what I do when I'm consulting with the church, how many of your adults are in a small group? They're part of a small group. And if you can get 50% of your adults in small groups, you're doing well. If you can get 60 to 70%, you're doing awesome. Anything above 70% is remarkable in the churches that I work with. So I encourage you, measure the number of adults who are in a small group. If you only have 10% of your adults in a small group, people are not building relationships. People are not getting discipled. And even in a small church where you only have 50 people on a Sunday, you might say, we don't need small groups. You do for discipleship, if not for relationships. In a small church, people get lots of relational connection on a Sunday. Do they get discipled to discuss and to talk about and have prayer and have love and care? Discipleship and care happen best in a small group. The third metric I love to look at, looking at the 6 key indicators of a healthy church, the third metric is actually serving. When I look at serving numbers, how many adults are serving in your church? Now, in a small church of 50 people, and assuming they're not all people over 80, 85 who are, past their strength and mobility best of days, I think you really need to look in a small church of 70 to 80% of your adults serving in the life of the church. If you have a church of attendance, say 100 people on a Sunday, and you only have 20 people serving, trust me, those 20 people are getting burnt out. They're getting worn out by all the serving, and 80 people are doing nothing. A real focus on a serving culture is vital, and I think it's a key indicator of a healthy church, because When someone says, hey, I want to help around here, you know what they say? I like my church. I want to see it thrive. I want it to do well. When people are saying, nah, I don't want to get involved, I don't want to do anything, I just want to rock up when I want to rock up, that's unhealthy spirituality, but it's also unhealthy at a church-wide level. If people don't want to serve, it's sending you a signal that something is not right in the life of the church. And so I think measuring serving levels, really helpful to ascertain key indicators of health. Don't forget to grab the 3-minute quiz that'll help you position your church for growth. Grab that, do that quiz. I know it'll be a real help for you. Well, the fourth key indicator of a healthy, thriving church is secondary giving. Now, you have your normative first level giving of Sunday tithing, whether you take an offering up in a service or people do it with an app like Tithely, or they're doing this through online ways, whichever way people are giving normatively every week or every month, whatever the process is in your part of the world and your church. But secondary giving programs is when you ask your church to sacrificially give above and beyond their normative giving to a building program, to a church plant, to a chaplaincy, to a missions project, to a secondary area of giving in your church that calls people to sacrifice, to step up, to dig deeper in all sorts of ways. Our church for decades has run a program called Beyond. It's part of our missions program, local and global missions. We've had that for about 20 years, I think, plus in our church in its current format of sacrificially giving to the life of the church. I think actually reflecting, it's about 19 years I think we've been running that, which is quite remarkable when I think about it. And we're right in the process of doing it right now in our church, where we're called to give sacrificially above and beyond our normal giving. Secondary giving programs, when they're at a high level in your church, and churches I consult with, I talk to them about their secondary giving programs. If they don't have one, I say, start one. And in the first year, say if your income is, say, $100,000 a year, that's your regular Sunday giving, your normative monthly giving, $100,000 a year. I said in the first year of this sort of giving program, you could probably raise maybe $10,000, maybe 10%, maybe in a really good year, maybe 20%. That'd be fabulous for a first year. But then as you build a culture, over 5 years, you can expect that culture to grow and you can be regularly seeing 30 to 35% extra giving in a secondary giving program. So not just getting your $100,000 for your regular giving, but getting $30,000, $35,000 extra. Imagine what you could do for that in missions, in special projects and community projects, helping people in your neighborhood who are poor that you're reaching out to and serving in the love of Christ. You can really do a lot. Now, in the Hub program that we have at Grow a Healthy Church, Hub Resources, I have a whole program that outlines for you how to run a secondary giving program in your church. Jump into the Hub, check it out. First 2 weeks are on me. Check it out, get in there, enjoy it, and you'll find those resources really helpful. Okay, the fifth key indicator of a thriving, healthy church, what is it? Well, let me give you one that's not a metric. My next 2 points are not metrics at all. I believe the sustained implementation of a clear focus indicates health. Let me unpack this for you. A sustained implementation of a clear focus. It's kind of a mouthful, isn't it? But let me unpack this whole thought for you. When a church decides that it has a clear objective, we are going to minister into that high school in our area. We're going to reach our community by very specific and strategic ways through social media and email devotionals. We're going to be creating a real focus on the homeless in our community. We're going to have a clear focus on people who are coming out of jail, and we're going to minister to them, help them assimilate back into the community life of the area that we live in. We're going to see 5 churches planted in Malaysia. We're going to do a whole amount of work to plant churches. What's your clear focus? What things do you have before your church? We're going to build a new children's facility as part, whatever it is. have a clear focus and a sustained implementation of it. When we did our building program way back in the 1990s, our building program from start to finish was 12 years. And sometimes it was really focused, other times it was a kind of back burner, not happening at all. But when you have a sustained implementation of a clear focus, and it doesn't have to be a building, doesn't have to be a missions project, it can be a discipleship heart matter that goes for 6 months. To me, a sustained implementation of a clear focus really brings health into church. You know, the Alpha program, you may have heard of the Alpha program. It's gone around the world from Holy Trinity Brompton Church in London. You know, when churches run an Alpha program for 3 months, that's a clear focal point that you have to implement with a sense of, we've got to do this. It's a sustained implementation of a clear focus. So it can be a short-term one, but when churches have a clear focal point, they're really working on and making it work. It adds life to the church, it adds momentum, it adds strength. People's spirituality rises because prayer rises. They dive into the Bible because they're looking for God to favor that thing and bless that thing. You know what? If you don't have a clear focus, you're going to end up unhealthy as a church and distracted from a primary mission of Jesus to make disciples. Okay, the sixth key ingredient of a healthy, thriving church: clear, consistent communications. Having communications to your church that are clear and are consistent. I think you should be emailing your church at least once a week. And when you have a special emphasis, a focal point that you're really implementing in a fresh way, like we just talked about, I don't think there's anything wrong with sending 4 or 5 emails about that thing within 10 days. And you put a link in there so people can say, look, I'm really not interested in this current stream of emails. I'll unsubscribe, not from the church email list, just from this flow of emails. I do that on my emails I send out to my newsletter. I give people a chance, if I'm doing a real strong series over a week, I give them a chance to unsubscribe from that particular series, but stay on the list so you'll get my regular content, which I know you people absolutely love. Well, I hope they do anyway. When a church decides, you know, we're going to really have policies around our communications, we're not going to do 15 announcements on a Sunday morning. The more you announce, the less people listen. Trust me, the more announcements you have, the more people tune out. 1 to 2 announcements is more than enough on a Sunday service. I fully believe that. People tune out after 3, 4, 5 announcements come. They're just not interested. They're just over it. People do not come to church for announcements. Anyway, we won't get down that rabbit hole. I'll be here all day talking about that. But clear, consistent communications. So if you've got an event coming up in 2 months, what does that mean? Like a major men's event, women's event, a church-wide event? I think that would be your one announcement for 6 weeks before the event. You just consistently and clearly put that communication out to your church. You do emails, you do social media. You kind of get your policies around what you will and what you won't announce. You'll also have branding. There's a kind of consistency about what you're saying and how you're saying it. When I see that in the church, I know it makes people just feel happier about their church because they get to hear the important things. And there's no way they're going to hear everything. No church member knows everything that's going on in any church, trust me. But they're hearing the important things. And there's just a sense of joy that, hey, I kind of know what's going on that's important for me to know. Clear, consistent communications. There you go, 6 key indicators of growing a healthy, thriving church. Jump into the 3-minute quiz that will help position your church for growth. And God bless you as you grow a healthy church.